Callie wanted to say hi. Oof, look at the kitty. Look at the kitty. So it has been a while since I've done one of these monthly recap videos. I kind of took a break from it last year. The year before I did it all year long, had to do some two-parters and catch-up videos, that type of thing. But I did these videos all for 2020. 2021, I was like, no, that's too, like, everybody does that. I don't really want to, like, I don't need to be doing that. But I think I actually was missing the opportunity to talk about all the books I was reading. I didn't make a ton of videos last year, and that means that if I wasn't specifically talking about a book for one of the challenges or themes I was doing, it just didn't get talked about. So I think I'm gonna go back to doing these monthly recaps. And starting off, January 2022, we are in. I read 10 books. First thing I finished up was this book, 3 Day Summer. So I have another video filmed. I'm still working on the editing, basically wrapping up everything I read for that buzzword challenge that I did last year. Didn't end up going great. It did not, but I'll talk more about my thoughts about this book in here. But basically this is a teen or YA historical fiction about some teens that go to Woodstock. It's just fine. It was like, there was nothing offensively bad about it. It was pretty predictable. It was kind of dull for being at Woodstock. The only like weird thing that really happened in it was that at one point the main male character was mistaken for one of the members of the band The Who, and he and the love interest end up taking this like helicopter ride. This is the second time this has happened to me where I've read a book and there was like one plot point that I was just like, where the fuck did they come up with that? And then back in the author's note about the book, it's mentioned that a family member came up with that idea. I don't know, authors. If you're the author, not your spouse or your son or whatever, like maybe just stick to that. But yeah, other than that, this was pretty inoffensive and not much to report on it. I will say in general, this was the last book I read for that buzzword challenge, which I do consider, I read or attempted to read every single book I said I was going to. There were some really bad ones and there were no really good ones. So kind of missed the mark on that challenge. I don't know who to blame for that. I picked all of the books, or almost all the books, from books that I had purchased and chosen for myself. No one to blame but me. But it is what it is, and I'm not doing that challenge again this year. So the reason that this is in here is because I was supposed to read this book in December, and I started it in December and I didn't finish it. Next up was The Raven Boys. This book I actually read for another challenge that I'm doing, and I'm working on the video still, and I have a lot of footage for that video, and it's been really difficult to edit, and I've been working on it for a really long time. So that video should have been done ages ago, and I should have been able to tell you guys about this, but it didn't work out that way. This is a teen YA book about this group of boys, and they're searching for this like mystical king. And there's a girl, Blue, that kind of gets caught up into it. My hopes were as low as they possibly could have been for this book series. I was like, this is gonna be a cheesy love triangle with the special girl. It's just gonna be a stupid Twilight knockoff, because it is from like 2013, so it is kind of back from that era when we were getting a lot of stuff like this. Paranormal, love triangle, special girl books. But shockingly, I absolutely loved this book. Something about the writing, I really like it. It's not the most tightly plotted. A lot of times the explanation or the answer is just, well, because magic. But the writing saves it. The characters are really interesting. I never would have expected to. I thought I was going to hate this. I really did. I'll talk more about it in that other video, but I read this one, I read the second one, and I read the third one. All three of them this month. There's actually a fourth one. The fourth is the finale. I have that on the way, so I'll be reading that soon as well. But I read all three of these, gave these 2 5 stars, gave this one like 4.5, rounded down to 4, because for some reason this one dragged a little in the middle for me. But it did all come together, and I'm really interested to read the finale. I also read The Nature of Witches. This one was really good too. I had a really good reading month for the most part. This is a book about a girl, and I guess I do have to say she is very special. In this world, there are 4 types of witches, or I guess there's 5, but there's generally 4 types of witches. Summer witches, autumn witches, winter witches, and spring witches. And they all have kind of unique powers, and their powers are the strongest depending on when it's their season. So the main character is what's called an Ever Witch, which means she has all of these magical powers. And she's the most powerful and the most strong and the most unique, because Ever Witches only happen like once every 100 years. And the witches in this book, they help the non-witches. I forget what they call us. There's a special word, kind of like muggles or something that they use, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. The witches help maintain the atmosphere and the weather, and things are getting difficult because of climate change, and the witches aren't able to handle it like they used to be, so they're really dependent on this Ever Witch, whose name I now cannot remember, but they need her powers now more than ever because of all this climate stuff that's happening, and she's having a really hard time because she can't always control her power, and sometimes it can hurt people. Really good book. There's another new one coming out by the author this year, I think, and I'm planning to read that too because I just really enjoyed it. I liked it. I had a good time with it. Maybe I just like witches right now. I don't know. Then I read The Chalk Man, which is just a classic mystery thriller. It was fine. I was pretty engaged with it. It's about the main character when he was 12 or so. He and his friends found this body. Now, 30 years later, some strange stuff has started happening, making them think that perhaps the original person they thought was the murderer was not actually the murderer. This one's clever. There's a lot of stuff that like comes together really good and unexpectedly. I like the plotting. Like, there's a really sad dog death scene. Like, I don't know why they had to do that. Like, I complain about this a lot, especially in mystery thrillers, when it's just done for the sake of raising the... I don't like it. It's not entertaining to me. I don't know what that says about me, that like some of the other stuff that happens in this book, like murder and all that, I'm fine with. You know, God forbid the dog dies, because it just takes me out of it and it just ruins it, and then I don't like the book as much. But yeah, like if that's not something that bothers you as much and you're just looking for like a well-plotted mystery thriller, this one's good. It's fine. I also read 2 John Grishams. These are absolutely enormous. These are both sequels to A Time to Kill, which was John Grisham's first book and I think his most successful one. I read that years ago. I remember really enjoying it. These are sequels based on the same lawyer character from those books. Sycamore Row, this entire very large book is about a contested will. It's a bold move. It is. And I will say John Grisham makes it more interesting than I could have imagined, because again, this is a lot about a will. Basically, this old man dies and he leaves everything to his housekeeper and intentionally cuts his children and grandchildren out of his will. Because he had cancer, because he's on pain meds, and because he did it last minute, his family is contesting this and saying, hey, he was on pain meds, he didn't know what he was doing, so that will doesn't matter, and we should revert back to his original will that says we get everything. And of course, there's a lot of race stuff because the housekeeper was black and this is Mississippi in like, I think this takes place in 1989. There's a lot of race stuff involved. And, you know, it was fine. I thought the resolution was good. It probably, like, he probably could have slimmed her down a bit. He does make all this, like, really dry, tedious legal stuff interesting, and I enjoy his writing style. Some of the stuff about race, I think John Grisham and this main character in this book, they consider themselves liberal, but then they are also very white Southern men. So it has some okay boomer moments between me and John Grisham when I was reading it. Yeah, this was written in 2014, even though it takes place in 1988. So I guess that kind of can smooth some of it over. Like, oh, that's not what John Grisham thinks. That's just what's going on in 1988 in Mississippi. But, you know, that's John Grisham, okay? And the books, they kind of read like that guy wrote them. So... And then this book, this one actually has an absolutely fascinating setup to it. It's such a wasted opportunity, it really was. This is probably the John Grisham book I've disliked the most of the ones that I can remember reading. Setup, absolutely fantastic. It's about a 16-year-old boy who shoots and kills his mother's boyfriend because the boyfriend has beat the shit out of the mother. And the teen boy and his sister think the mother's dead. They're panicking. They've been beat by this guy before. He gets shot and killed. The man that's shot and killed is a police officer. And I don't know if this is still true, but at that time in Mississippi, if you shot and killed a police officer, even when he was not on duty, even if he was blackout drunk, as the man in this book was, it's a death penalty case. Even though 16-year-old boy, the ending, pretty unsatisfying. I don't want to give away much more than that, but it's very unsatisfying. And John Grisham and the main character, the lawyer that takes this case, they show a lot of sympathy for this cop that was shot and killed. Even though it's established, he would get drunk and he would beat his girlfriend and he would beat his kids, and as if that's not bad enough, it eventually comes out that he was also raping a 14-year-old girl and has impregnated her. And even after that, the main character, Jake, keeps saying to people, well, I feel sorry for Stuart's family. They've gone through enough. Or, you know, I knew Stuart and I liked him. I thought he was a nice guy. The views on abortion presented in this book are absolutely horrific. The church that has taken in the mother and the 14-year-old pregnant girl threatened to throw them both out if the girl gets an abortion. The pastor's wife put a lot of work into convincing this girl to not get an abortion. The lawyer, Jake, the hero, the guy that we are supposed to be rooting for, tells the girl she shouldn't get an abortion. 1, because it would be the wrong thing to do. And 2, because if she doesn't get the abortion, then she can go into court pregnant and testify that the man was raping her, and it would help her brother get off for the murder. Like, the emotional manipulation that is put into this book to convince this girl to not have an abortion, and the way it's presented not as horrific manipulation, but as, you know, the right thing for this lawyer and this pastor and his wife to have done. Absolutely horrifying. I have to assume those are John Grisham's views on abortion, because this is the hero of the story doing this. That's what John Grisham thinks, and that's what he thinks the right thing to do in this case was, and I just can't. I can't. It's really left a bad taste in my mouth about not just this book, but John Grisham in general. So it's unfortunate, but... And it's just unnecessary too. Like, he had to know that that would be like, if John Grisham doesn't believe in abortion, whatever, that's, I can overlook that. And he could have written this book with the girl not getting an abortion because she didn't want to, and not because her pastor and the pastor's wife and her brother's lawyer and all these people basically pressured her into delivering this child and then giving the child up to a closed abortion or adoption, and insisting that she not see the child immediately after she gives birth to it, and insisting that it has to be a closed adoption and that everything will be better for everyone if she doesn't ever see her child again. And it's just bad. John Grisham, it's real bad. And then I read 2 Book of the Month books. Piranesi, loved. This is delightful. It is about this man, and he is a man. Originally I thought that was Piranesi, but it's not. This is a statue. Piranesi lives in this house. The house is infinite. It is full of statues, and no one else lives there except this other guy that he calls the Other. And Piranesi and the Other are working on exploring the house and trying to find this like secret hidden magic. I don't want to give too much away. It's not a very long book, but this is not at all what I thought it was going to be. Very readable. It's fun. It's different. It's weird. It's just a good solid fantasy read. And I don't want to say too much more about that because I think it's best experienced without knowing too much. And then A History of Wild Places, did not care for this one at all. It actually started out really interesting with this guy. He's like a private investigator. He specifically hunts down missing people because he has this like magic ability to touch things that they have touched and figure out what they were doing, where they went, what happened to them. And he's trying to find this missing woman and stumbles upon this like commune in the woods. And then we switch perspectives and we're working with these, it's several years in the future, and we're following these people inside the commune who have started to find like hints of what might have happened to the original man and woman that disappeared. It started out okay, and then in the middle, it just dragged. It dragged and dragged and dragged. It dragged its way to a really stupid conclusion that I didn't like at all. So this one's probably actually going to go into my trade pile to trade with people for different Book of the Month club books on Facebook, which I do sometimes, because I can't see myself ever touching this one again, and I wouldn't really recommend it to any of my friends or family either. So if you're looking for a Book of the Month, I would skip this one. This is an older one, but if you need a good add-on, this was actually my birthday add-on for the month of January. I'm really glad I picked it because I really like this one. And that's everything I read in January. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you want me to keep doing this type of videos, if you prefer to only hear about books I read for challenges and just follow me on Goodreads, or if you like to hear about everything I've read. And I'll see you next time.